Well, good morning, everybody. Brandon Tucker here, president of the Tucker Group Real Estate Brokerage Firm right here in Okeechobee, Florida. It is Wednesday, April the 29th, 2020, and I have a very special guest with me here this morning, my father, Bobby Tucker. Thanks, Dad, for joining me here this morning. Today is a special day, and what is today, Dad?
Happy birthday, son.
So it is my birthday today, and appreciate all the shout outs I've already got this morning for my birthday. And if you want to go on and guess my age, go for it, and we'll appreciate any comments you have on that. But so Dad, it's good to have you here this morning on my birthday, and to talk about what's going on once again in the real estate market here. And so you started in the real estate industry in the late 1970s. Was it 1977?
77, 78.
77, 78. And so you've seen so many things. When you came into the business, it was on the tail end of the Carter administration, right before Ronald Reagan became president in the early 80s, and you had 18 to 20% interest rates.
That's true.
Then we went through the 88 stock market crash and the 89 savings and loan bailout. And then we had in the late 90s, when I came into the real estate business in 1996, we had the dot-com bust, they called it. And then 2001 happened, and you and I just started working together for about a few months when 9/11 occurred. Went through that, and then we went through that 2003 to 2007 period that was just skyrocketing prices, and the real estate market was rather frothy at that time. And then we had the crash in 2008. We had the financial collapse. It was caused by a lot of fraud going on in the mortgage lending banking world and all those different things. And so we saw the collapse of Bear Stearns and other big firms like Lehman Brothers and others. And so we went through about a 4-year period there, Dad, that was just really, really bad. And we got through it, and we were blessed to be able to be successful and sustain through that. And so now we've come to 2020, and we've had this COVID-19 thing happen, which what they call a black swan event. And that's an interesting term, but yeah, they call it a black swan event. It's one of those things they say like happens once every 100 years or so. And it's just something that's rather unprecedented that we have a hard time kind of trying to figure out where we're going. So people are asking you and I all the time, what's going to happen? What's it going to be like in 6 months or a year? So, based upon your decades of experience, Dad, and and you've been involved in so many different things. I mean, you've been on the board of Big Lake National Bank in the 80s. You've been on the board of First Bank Indiantown, and Harbor Community Bank, and now Center State Bank, just a vast amount of banking experience. And then you were on the founding board of the Utility Authority here in Okeechobee, and the Planning and Zoning Board you served on, and you've been with the Sheriff's Office here as a major over their auxiliary since the late 1970s, so over 40 years with the Sheriff's Office. Right. And so you've been there longer than anybody that's been there. And so
other than Larry Williams.
Other than Larry Williams. Hey, Larry, if you're watching, big shout out, go Gators, buddy. So I mean, you've got a really well-rounded perspective of what's kind of happened over the last few decades. So all of that being said, Dad, what is kind of your feeling about where we're at, and maybe just give us where you think we're headed.
Well, I go back to my roots, coming into this business and working with the people that I work with, and especially Mr. Williams and my old partner Haynes. And he always told me, don't worry about the real estate business, because like most people that get into business, I was broke when I got into business. And so I was working paycheck to paycheck. And the first week I was there, I sold a lot out at Arbar Estates, believe it or not, for $10,000.
Wow.
And Buck Daniels was the owner, the developer, and he was paying us $1,000.
Wow.
So under my contract,
10%?
Yeah, 10% back then, and I sold 2 that week to Mr. Entry, Mr. John Entry, and I sold him my first 2 lots, and I made $1,000 that week. And I got to be honest with you, I cried because I couldn't believe I had $1,000 in my checking account. But going back to my roots, Haynes always told me, don't worry about it. Somebody's going to sell something, either it be the economy makes somebody sell something, or it's a death in the family, or what. And you'll always want to buy your neighbor, and the neighbor will always want to buy you, and God ain't making any more real estate. So I think that where we are today is just a passing time. I think that ag real estate, as it has been in the past, has always not gone up real quick, but it's not come down. It's always been a very safe investment. I think the biggest difference is back in those days and up through the period of time, even when you came to work with me, was that we were dealing with ranchers on ranches, or dairymen on ranches, and our citrus people, and those people looked at what a crop or a cow could do and could pay for in the land. And so today that's not true. You have all different kind of banks and businesses buying ag land, looking for a 5-6% cap, ever what that is, and then you've got people that are making money in other businesses that want to spend it into ag because it is a safe investment. So I think that we're just passing through a time where we will get through this. Thank God we got the president we have, and we will get through this. And I think believing in him and knowing that God's in control, we'll come through it and we'll shine.
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime you have volatility like this and uncertainty, people go to hard assets. They're going to go to a lot of people about gold and silver and land, and especially productive land that can grow a crop.
Right.
So we've got that safe, secure, self-sustainable thing we were talking about last week, and that continues to be the mantra around here. And what's really kind of driving our market today, Dad, is those people calling, looking for that safe, secure, self-sustainable element. And we had a before we started taping this morning, had a farming entity actually looking to do some farming here that called, and they were asking about why the property next door was priced higher than this piece, because the piece to the north of it is wooded and not as good of a farming piece as the piece they're looking at. And I told them, well, recreational properties here tend to bring more per acre than just a standard farming, ranching tract.
That's true.
And it's because we have a huge South Florida influence from Miami-Dade County all the way up to the Treasure Coast. People looking to get out of the city and the hustle and bustle and come out and find a place to bring their kids and hunt. And now it's this, and that's always been part of our business, but now we've got the safe, secure, self-sustainable thing, because we have a whole different clientele now of people that are looking to purposely get out of these metro areas because they want to get away from another possible pandemic down the road, or a second wave, a breakout, or whatever may happen, because nobody knows what's coming down the line. So, now when we're talking about that, you've got a piece of property in the Highlands County that is 844 acres owned by Mr. Seifert. We call it the Seifert East Ranch. Tell me a little bit about that piece of land.
I tell you, in all my years of selling ranches, I don't believe that I've ever sold a ranch that was any nicer than this one. This one is at high production. I was talking to Mr. Davis, the ranch foreman manager, a couple of months ago, and I was out there and I said, how many cows you got on there? Because there were just cows everywhere. He said, well, we normally run 350 up to 400. He said, we have had at times up to 500 on there because we rotating pastures or something. But when you see the Ferrata and the Stargrass and the way they've got it laid out, 2 solar wells, they got complete water control there. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but you can say more about it than I can because you understand it more. But he's got a unique situation where he has a pump on the northeast corner of the property on the C41 canal where he can pump in and pump out, which is unusual, especially in that basin. And the permits are all in place. It's got good access to the property. And it's so easy to show and ride around in because everything's first class. You don't have bad gates, you don't have bad roads. I mean, it's just a beautiful place. Mr. Seifert and his family has done an excellent job over the years and been known for having the best cattle. So they still have them. They're still out there and they're still beautiful. So it is a gorgeous place. It is a gorgeous place to come build you a home and put you a family compound in. It would be fantastic for that because, quite frankly, we know all the neighbors and they're all good people.
Yeah, and all the neighbors around it are large landowners, so it's not like you have a bunch of people on like 5 or 10 acre tracts. I mean, it's very scattered out, but good people, like Dad said, and their neighbors. And this property is really unique, like you were talking about, with the fact that it's on the C41 canal and it's in the Indian Prairie Basin, which is a restricted basin with a water management district. So you can't just go in there today and apply for new consumptive water use permits and things like that because it's a restricted basin. So having these existing permits that it has today and the ability to pump in and out would also lend itself to have the ability to be a higher intense agribusiness use for any type of row crop farming. So you could convert it all to row crop farming. You could do a combination of cow-calf and row crop farming on parts of it as well. And then there's 100 acres of really pretty hardwoods that run through the center of this piece that have wild turkey on it and white-tailed deer and boar hog and all the things that we enjoy recreationally from a hunting aspect. And there's a lot of wild game that migrates through. It's just a few miles north of the Brighton Seminole Reservation. So, just a really cool piece of property that absolutely fulfills that safe, secure, self-sustainable thing that we're talking about. And so that piece is 844 acres, priced at $5,450. That's $5,450 per gross surveyed acre. So that's a great value, a good piece of property. So all right, so you got a little bit different piece. It's on the north end of Okeechobee that is an 80 acre piece that has a custom home with a hangar and an airstrip. And so tell me a little bit about that piece of property.
It's 85 acres. It belongs to Bill Malone, who's well known here in this farming region for his ag air business. The ranch name is Sunnyland Ranch. It's got a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on it, double garage, self-sustainable, generator, metal roof, good shape, new paint inside and out, 75 by 75 hanger, so you can certainly put more than one plane in there. I think I've seen 4 in there one time of his. So very unique with its own fuel system there. They got jet fuel, ag fuel, 2 10,000-gallon tanks, 1 3,000, all permitted, all inside concrete, no pollution. The airstrip itself is 4,400 feet. It runs north and south. You own that jointly with your neighbor who agrees through the deed that it will always be an airstrip unless both of you agree to terminate it. The property has 3 partial ID numbers there that make that up, and they did that for tax purposes. And this property has a bit of highway frontage. The zoning there is 1 to 10, so it leaves you a lot of room there to do other things with. And most of it is improved pasture. On the south end, there is some heavily trees in there that I believe was a nursery part of one time. But anyway, it's really pretty. And so it's a good place to come look. It's $1,150,000, and it's priced right to sell. So 85 acres with a small bunkhouse, 2-bedroom bunkhouse, we call it. Very neat, very clean. So it's a good, neat, clean place.
Yeah, so once again, safe, secure, self-sustainable, and an airstrip. So if you're an aviation enthusiast and you're down in South Florida and you got a plane and want to fly your family up, I'm sure pretty quick you can be up here and land right on your property and pull it in the hangar, and you got a fuel farm there, like Dad described, with Jet A and other av fuel, and the 1 to 10, that gives you vested rights for 8 home sites on 80 acres in this county. And you have the ability, because there's a lot of paved road frontage, that if an exit strategy 15, 20 years down the road, you want to sell it, and there was a market, you wanted to cut it up to 10-acre home sites or something, you could certainly do that relatively easily without a whole lot of brain damage, I call it, dealing with county government. So yeah, just a really good piece of property that has all those different advantages to it. So that's pretty cool. So when we're talking about what's going on in the market today, we got our first quarter numbers from the Florida Association of Realtors that came out through the end of March. And those numbers were fairly strong still, and that was because of contracts that basically were written in the January, February timeframe before this really hit. But the interesting part about that report that we saw is that pending sales in Okeechobee and Martin County, which we follow very closely, both of those counties, they were down about 30 to 35% at the end of March for pending sales. But interestingly enough, I was reading foxbusiness.com this morning, Dad, and there was an article talking about that seasonally adjusted home sales were up 12% in April, and that there was a rebound even in the New York City area, which was fascinating to me. So if you want to go to foxbusiness.com and you want to fact check me on that, go do it. I read it this morning, and that's good news. But the interesting thing is that people constantly asking us, and the questions we ask people to send questions in, when they go to our website, to tucker-group.com, or to YouTube, or to Facebook, or Instagram, those places we are, and you guys are sending us questions. And the big question that we're getting all the time is what do we think is going to happen? What do we think is going to happen in 6 months or a year? And I don't think if anybody tells you they know for sure, they're lying to you. So definitely don't listen to those people. But when we're looking forward, to what we kind of see could be evolving there. I mean, what's just any kind of what's your gut telling you?
Well, my gut tells me that, as I had mentioned before, my gut tells me that this is just a period of time we're going through, and I believe that we have the right president in there, and everything he said so far he's done, and he says it's going to get better than it has been. And so I'm looking forward to getting through this, everybody getting back to work. I think that God's in control, and we're looking for better times. And let's have a good time as we go through it.
Work hard, play hard, right?
Yeah, right.
So, all right, guys. Hey, so before we close out, we just want to remind you, go to the website tucker-group.com. You can go to the website. You can check out the agent page. You'll find my father, Bobby Tucker, under there. Scroll down, click on his link in his bio, and you'll see the listings that he has. and you can reach out to him. And we just want to wish everybody safety and God's blessings on your life. And hey, watch this, Dad. Thanks for being here, man.
God bless you.
We can still shake hands. You see that, everybody? All right. God bless everybody. Take care.